May 23, 1945, Upper Austria. The war in Europe had been over for 2 weeks. Across the continent, survivors were emerging from ruins, from forests, from the wreckage of a system that had tried to consume an entire civilization. Soldiers were going home. Families were searching for the living and beginning to bury the dead. In the mountains above the village of Windischgarsten, a man was hiding. He had a hunting lodge up there. His wife and 3 children were with him. He believed the mountains would protect him. He believed enough time had passed. He believed that in the chaos of a collapsed empire, he might simply disappear. He was wrong. His name was Franz Ziereis, and for 6 years, he had been the absolute master of Mauthausen, a concentration camp built from granite in the hills of Upper Austria, where at least 90,000 human beings were worked, starved, gassed, and shot to death under his direct command. He had run toward the mountains on May 3, 1945, the morning American forces closed in on the camp from the west and Soviet forces from the east. He had left behind him a quarry, gas chambers, disguised as showers, execution walls, and the skeletal survivors of one of the most brutal camp systems in the entire Nazi network. He had lasted exactly 20 days in hiding. When American soldiers found him in that mountain lodge and he attempted to flee, they shot him. The wounds were serious. He was taken to a U.S. military field hospital set up inside the former Gusen subcamp, the very ground where thousands of the men he had imprisoned had died. And there, before he died, he talked. Franz Ziereis was born in Munich in August 1905. His early life was unremarkable. Commercial studies, carpentry work during the unemployment crisis of the early 1920s, and then in 1924, enlistment in the Reichswehr, the German military of the Weimar Republic. He spent 12 years as a soldier, rose to the rank of sergeant, and was discharged in 1936. Within months, he joined the SS. The transition was not a difficult one. The SS in 1936 was absorbing experienced military men rapidly, offering rank, purpose, and an institution that rewarded the kind of unquestioning obedience that Ziereis had spent a decade practicing. He was awarded a lieutenancy immediately. Within a year, he commanded a unit of SS Death's Head Guards. Within 2 years, he had participated in the Anschluss, the annexation of Austria, moving with SS mobile units through a country that greeted German troops largely without resistance. Then, Theodor Eicke noticed him. Eicke was the architect of the Nazi concentration camp system, the man who had developed the methods, the culture, and the daily operational structure that turned the camps from improvised detention facilities into industrialized instruments of death. He had a specific eye for the kind of officer he wanted running his installations. Men who were capable, organized, and completely without scruple about what they were being asked to do. He chose Ziereis to run Mauthausen in February 1939. Mauthausen had been established in April 1938 on a hill overlooking the Danube, built around a granite quarry that the SS leased from the city of Vienna. The quarry became the defining feature of life and death inside the camp. Prisoners, many of them political opponents, Spanish Republican refugees, Soviet POWs, and Jews, were forced to carry enormous blocks of granite up a staircase of 186 steps that the prisoners themselves called the Stairs of Death. Those too exhausted to continue were beaten. Some were thrown from the cliff at the top, a drop of nearly 150 feet into the quarry below. SS guards gave this a nickname too. At least 90,000 people died at Mauthausen and its nearly 100 subcamps between 1938 and 1945. The actual number may be significantly higher. Records were incomplete, deliberately falsified, or destroyed before liberation. Ziereis oversaw it all. Under his command, Mauthausen expanded continuously to meet wartime production demands. The quarry fed construction projects across the Reich, subcamps spread across Upper Austria, each one feeding labor into factories, mines, and construction sites, while prisoners died at rates that required constant replacement shipments from across occupied Europe. He rose through the SS ranks steadily, major in 1939, colonel by April 1944, promoted on the strength of an institution that valued productivity measured in granite and silence. In his dying confession at the Gusen Field Hospital, Ziereis described the gas chamber at Mauthausen, a room built to look like a bathroom, used to kill prisoners with Zyklon B, constructed on the order of the camp's SS medical officer. He described a vehicle that traveled between Mauthausen and Gusen, prisoners on the road between the two facilities. He described rifle ranges where prisoners were used as live targets for SS training exercises. He confirmed that he had received orders from Berlin to kill every remaining prisoner and destroy both camps entirely if Allied forces approached. He stated that, as far as he knew, 65,000 inmates had been murdered at Mauthausen. He said that in most of the executions, he had personally taken part. He died at 7:30 in the morning on May 23, 1945, from his wounds. Former prisoners of Mauthausen took his body. Days later, it was found hanging on the barbed wire fence of the Gusen camp, naked except for the bandage still wrapped around his left arm. Someone had painted his back with swastikas and the words Heil Hitler in large letters. His body remained there for several days, exposed in the open air, until the smell of decay grew severe enough that an American officer ordered it removed. The men who had survived what he built had found their own form of record keeping. They made sure that the last image of Franz Ziereis, the man who had commanded the death of tens of thousands, who had run rifle ranges with prisoners as targets, who had prepared to destroy every human being in his custody rather than allow them to be freed, was one he could not have chosen for himself. History remembered him exactly as he deserved to be remembered, hanging on the wire he had once controlled, painted with the symbols of the regime he had served, in the place where the dead he had made outnumbered the living by thousands. Thank you for watching. If this story stayed with you, if you felt the full weight of what happened at Mauthausen and what followed, then you already know what this channel stands for. The subscribe button is right there. More stories like this one are coming, and every one of them deserves to be heard.